I was watering my tomato plants and I noticed that I'm starting to get a little bit of an aphid problem on them. This is a pest that I start to see around this time of year. It's kind of early summer, late spring. And I want to talk about what you can do if you also are finding aphids on your plants. So, first of all, what are aphids? They are small little green insects. They almost blend in with your green plants. So they might be hard to see. The way that I was able to really quickly recognize that I had some aphids was that you can kind of see the exoskeleton that they'll shed on those leaves, and it's kind of a light brown. And so that's a little easier to see than the aphids, especially if you don't have a lot of them. You'll really notice them if you get a pretty big infestation, but hopefully it doesn't get to that point for you because you're going to do these suggestions I give you. So I was noticing that I had some aphids, and what the aphids do and why they're bad for your garden is because they're sucking out the sap of your plant. And that sap has nutrients that the plant needs. And so if they're sucking up that sap, that means that your plant is going to have less nutrients. And eventually, if it goes, for a little while over time, your plant will die off. So you really want to make sure that you're taking care of aphids. I will say, of all the pests that I find in my vegetable garden, aphids are the one that I find is the easiest to deal with. So if this is the only problem that you're having, consider yourself lucky. So there are three different things that you can do when it comes to containing and managing your aphid problem. If your aphid problem is minimal, meaning that you're not seeing stalks just completely covered in aphids, the best thing to do is honestly, and this sounds like it's not going to be effective, but I promise it is, you just want to spray them off with water. If you just knock them off of the plant and you do that over the course of several days, that will get rid of the aphids. Now, you don't want to use like a power washer, just your hose nozzle on the highest strength that it can do. And I usually kind of like hold the plant when I'm spraying it and knock them off. That's going to take care of it. You could also hand brush them off. So if you really only have a few and you'd rather just use your hand and kind of pinch them off or brush them off the plant, that will work as well. So using water or actually physically hand removing them over the course of a few days, if it's a light infestation, that will take care of it. The other option, and something that I'll do if I have more aphids or just don't want to have to worry about coming out and watering over the course of several days, is I will use a Castile soap. Now, this is something that I use a lot in my house. It's a non-toxic soap. I use Dr. Bronner's, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's diluted. So I'll put it in a spray bottle and I'll go in and I will spray my plants. Now, what this soap does is when it gets on those aphids, there's a reaction it has on them that it kills them off. And for me, this is a pretty quick, effective way to do it. Now, there's a couple of things to note with this. One concern people have with using any kind of insecticide or soap, even ones that are non-toxic, is that it might mess with your pollinators. So we don't want to damage the good insects. We only want to get rid of the ones that are not friends of the garden. So the way that I kind of mitigate that risk is I will spray my plants in the evening. And why this is better than spraying it during the day, there's actually a couple reasons. But when it comes to the pollinators, it's better because a lot of times the pollinators are going away at the evening time. And so most of them are not going to be left on your plant in the evening. They'll come back out the next day when the sun comes out. So if you spray in the evening, you're much less likely to disrupt those pollinators. And with the soap, once you spray it and it dries, even when it dries on the plant, it's not going to then impact any bugs once it's dry. So it's only when it's wet. So if you spray it at night, it dries by the morning, and then the pollinators come, it's not going to have a negative effect on them. The other reason you want to spray in the evening, and this goes for anything that you're spraying on your plants, including if you're doing like BT, or sometimes I'll need to spray some calcium on my tomato plants. The other reason you want to do that in the evening versus in the morning or midday is if you're spraying something on your plants and then the sun shines down on it, that is not going to be good for your plants. You might cause some issues because it's kind of magnifying the sun onto your leaves, and you might get some sunspots and just have some other issues. So I really recommend for both of those reasons, if you're going to spray anything, spray in the evening. So Castile soap is my go-to a lot of the time when it comes to aphids. The other option is to use something called neem oil. Similar to Castile soap, it's non-toxic. Neem oil is something that's natural, so it really is not going to be bad at all for your plants. But you can spray neem oil, and it's kind of going to do the same thing as the Castile soap. It's just going to make it so that those aphids are not going to be able to survive. And so same concept with the soap, that if you're going to spray neem oil, I recommend doing it in the evening. Now, these plants, I actually sprayed my Castile soap on these 3 days ago, and it's been 3 days. I no longer see any live ones. And actually, when I checked it 2 days later, they were all gone as well. I still can see some of like the remnants of them, some of the exoskeletons, and there's some little dead aphids on the plants, but the neem oil worked really well. As you can see, this tomato plant is still absolutely thriving. It looks beautiful. And so that is a really great option. So either water or hand remove the aphids, use something like a Castile soap or neem oil. Those are really going to be the three best options for dealing with aphids on your plant. Like I said, of all the pests in the garden, aphids are definitely, in my opinion, the easiest to deal with. So if you have aphids, don't fret. You can get rid of them. I hope you found this helpful and that you have a great growing season.